we'll be speaking on our agenda a little later. So, oh, I'm missing something. It's my glasses. Okay, now I can see. All right, sorry. Okay, before we adopt the agenda, I want to thank Judy for presiding in my absence last month. It's nice to be back.
Glad to have you back,
Thank you, Judy.
and I don't have to do it again.
Well, you seem to handle it very well, and so we're all here, and Russell is living in, so that makes the crowd. So we welcome Russell from where he might be. You have the agenda before you. And is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. Are you going to bring, so it's unanimous. We have adopted the agenda. And we will now move on to our public comment. And we have one public comment from Danny McIntosh. He's going to talk about wastewater. So Danny, it's yours. We don't have a timer working, but if you'll just kind of keep in mind. Okay.
I missed seeing y'all last month. But I did read through the minutes from the work session.
Yes,
There's a lot going on.
yes.
And, I appreciate it. Snow plow crew were prompt back here in the snow. I thought that all that's good to see. Yeah. When I read through the land use development plan and the meetings from the work session, what came to me was this. There's a plan in the works, y'all are part of it. And if you can get to a point where you can expand our waste treatment capacity to add an additional 3,000 homes, I think that's what it is. And that's doable. That's doable. That's not a high in the sky. If you can get to there and only have a 3% increase in water and sewer that the land use plan recommends, y'all are gonna be superheroes and you can wear your capes out on the square. That's all doable. I think that it can be done. But I don't know if there's anybody really much else in town besides people in this room that understand what kind of challenge this is. So, having said all that, I appreciate y'all hard work.
Well, thank you, Danny. Appreciate those kind words. We will persevere. Okay, that concludes our public comment. We're going to hold on the consideration of the minutes because I'm going to be passing around the, is it going around? Okay, so we'll come back to, before, when we get to my part on the agenda, which is number 8, by then everybody will have read the minutes and we'll call for the approval of those sets of minutes as listed in item number 3. So I won't forget. Okay, we're happy to have Corey Osborne with us this evening. He's been doing a great job for us. And it doesn't surprise us at all. Our comprehensive land use plan, which we just heard Danny referencing. So before we go into a public hearing, Corey, would you like to kind of hit the highlights of anything you'd like to say about the comprehensive land use plan?
I would, thank you, and thank you all for having me here tonight. For those folks that haven't met, my name's Corey Osborne, and I'm a regional planner with High Country Council of Governments in Boone. The town asked us to put together a land use plan for them last year, about a year ago exactly now. And whenever I'm talking about a land use plan, I like to talk about 3 questions: why, how, and what. So why, after all these years, has Burnsville decided to do a comprehensive land use plan for the first time ever? The short answer is because the state's making you do it.
That'll
So
work.
a couple of years ago, the state consolidated some different state statutes into one related to local government land use development and planning. And that new single statute is called Chapter 160D. And it changed some things about what you can and can't do as a local government. But the main point, and why we're here tonight, is because it requires local governments that want to exercise zoning authority to have a comprehensive plan in place in order to do so. So without a comprehensive plan, in a couple of years, any town that does not have one will not be able to enforce their zoning regulations or exercise any zoning authority. So that's why Burnsville has went through this process to put together a land use plan in order to comply with 160D. And the plan as drafted will comply and meet the requirements of 160D for a comprehensive plan. Beyond just being made to do it by the state, it's also important because a land use plan is a valuable process that makes you step back from the day-to-day and think long-term and really reflect on where your community is and where it wants to go. So a land use plan looks at different factors such as your zoning and subdivision regulations, any land use regulations. It looks at environmental considerations and regulations regarded to flood zones or steep slope. It also looks at your growth policies and your utilities, which is especially of concern for Burnsville right now, I know. So it's a valuable process, and that's why the state's making local governments do it. So it's not just an arbitrary mandate from the state. That's the why. As for the how, that's the actual process itself. So as I mentioned, we started just about a year ago. We had terrible timing in terms of the pandemic. I think our kickoff meeting was 1 or 2 weeks before everything hit the fan, the pandemic. So it's been an interesting ride to get where we are today. But the contents of the plan and everything in it has been driven by the steering committee, which was made up by all the planning board members, as well as a couple of representatives from town council and the town staff. And they really framed what's in the contents of the plan, what was included. They really framed how public input was sought in the middle of a pandemic. And they're ultimately the ones who come up with the recommendations that are in the plan, as well as the future land use map. So I'd like to just thank all of them for being diligent and staying engaged over the past year, particularly in the pandemic. I know land use planning isn't the most exciting topic, so thank you for sticking it out with us. In terms of the public input process for the plan, we were limited in what we could do because of the pandemic. Obviously, we couldn't seek in-person public input, so we had to rely on an online survey that was made available to the public for September to October of last year. And over that time span, we got just over 140 responses, which may not sound like a lot, but for a community of your size, that's a great response rate. Not only did you get a great response rate, but the quality of the responses you received, I felt was pretty good. And all of that is detailed in the plan, which I hope you've had a chance to look over. So that's the why and the how, and now the what is what's actually in the document that you're considering for adoption tonight. It's broken into 3 sections. It's got the background information, the public input process, and then finally your future land use map and recommendations. The background section basically looks at everything that's going on in your community and tries to assess trends, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and tries to project what you're going to look like in the future. So it looks at demographics, environmental constraints, that's flood zones, steep slopes, things like that. We also did impermeable surface mapping, so we went through and mapped everything in town that is an impermeable surface and discovered that just under a quarter of the entire town's surface area is covered by a surface that won't let stormwater filter through, which is part of the reason that you have stormwater and flooding issues, which you're working to address. We did a parking study in summer of last year where we looked at demand in the downtown area and your public and private on-street and off-street lots. And then we also looked at your existing development regulations like zoning, subdivision ordinance, your existing land use. We went through and looked at every parcel in town and classified it based on the existing land use to give you an idea of what's happening in town and what's not conforming. And then we looked at your building permits for the past 10 years to identify any patterns and try to get a sense of where development's occurring and what type of development's occurring. So all of that was done to kind of give context to the rest of the plan. The second section, public input, just gives a list of the questions that were asked as part of the survey, and then gives a brief summary of all the responses that were given. So the results of the background information and the public input led to the creation of the future land use map and your recommendations. Future land use map will not change your zoning classification. So if you adopt the plan tonight, your zoning that you had this morning will be the same tomorrow morning. All it does is serve as a guide document for future rezoning requests. So 2 years down the road, if somebody comes and asks for a voluntary rezoning of their property, you will look at that future land use map to make sure that their requested zoning classification is in keeping with what you established in this plan. And that can always be amended, and it should be amended as the town grows and changes. And then finally, there are 25 recommendations that cover a wide gamut of different topics. I won't go into all of them because I know you've had a chance to look at them, and I know the public's had a chance to inspect it over the past couple of months. But those are intended to guide your policy decisions over the next 10 to 15 years, and they will not change on their own any of your zoning regulations or subdivision regulations. They simply recommend what you should do, but it's incumbent upon the town council to actually make the changes to your zoning text or subdivision text, or proactively address any of the recommendations that are listed in there. So by adopting the plan tonight, nothing actually changes. It's just a guide policy document for the next 10 to 15 years. So that's why, how, and what. In terms of next steps, this plan as drafted has already been approved by the planning board, and it's before you all tonight. You're required to hold a public hearing, which I know you're going to do here in just a minute. If the town council decides to approve the plan as drafted tonight, that's the end of the planning process. If you decide after receiving public comment and discussing it amongst yourselves that you would like to amend it in any way, you need to specify exactly what you want to change, and then that would go back to the planning board for their review and input. They would make a revised draft and send it back to you for adoption. It's a long-winded explanation for how we got here. But I think it's been a valuable process, and I hope that you're happy with the result. And I appreciate you all asking us to be a part of it.
Well, we certainly appreciate your guidance in leading us down the slippery slope. So you've been a valuable person to help us get through this, Corey. We certainly are grateful.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've heard about it, and now I guess we're going to open our public hearing. I need a motion to open the public hearing for public comment.
I make that motion.
Second.
You agree? Are you okay with that, Russell? Okay. So we will now open the public hearing. I have two people who have signed to speak, and the first person is Danny McIntosh.
I'd be more happy to go last.
You may go, then Jamie, would you like to go first, and then Danny go second? Okay.
I'll be brief. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. I just wanted to speak briefly to commend the work that Corey's done, commend the work that your planning board has done, and that town staff has done. EDC wholeheartedly endorses this plan. It's certainly in line with one of the recommendations in the recently enacted economic development plan for the town and county that this council and other boards approved at the end of 2019. Certainly it is a longer range plan, but we can all look around and see that development is not a future thing. It is upon us, really. Growth is upon us. It's incumbent on us to do it in a responsible way, but a way that encourages openness to business development. This plan, I think, certainly does that. It's done a lot to focus initiatives toward the housing and residential development sectors. I can't commend it highly enough. I think it's very well thought out. And just wanted to take a brief moment to, as I say, thank you and the planning board and staff for their work and commend it to you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Well, thank you very much, Jamie. So we'll move on to Danny, your second and last.
Well, I wish more people would come out and take an interest rather than just waiting until something happens and get mad at that. But I'd like to commend Corey, certainly you put a lot of effort in this, the planning commission, the planning board, and all that's a tremendous amount of information. Good information, some interesting information, so the comments were interesting. There's a lot of stuff in there to try to digest about our town. I think that, couple of notes to make about some of the comments. One was about the location of the tag office being right on the town square and the problem that causes with people putting their tags on their cars in the street and parking and backing out the street and all that. Well, I had that conversation with County Manager Nathan Bennett before that whole operation got geared to no avail. So I understand where you're coming from with that. In my mind, that wasn't the best idea that could have been. Put all that traffic right there on that corner. The other thing was several comments in there about the intersection going up into CVS and into Roses about how convoluted that is over there. And what I learned during the construction of the 4-lane through town was is you can't depend on the plan that's on the paper or even the construction that's put on the ground all the time because it's subject to change. But I was getting it from the DOT, and I also double checked with the head of Ingalls Real Estate about the configuration of that. And the plan at that time was to take the Reservoir Road straight in and up the hill and go out through the parking lot and turn and go down at that first intersection. And the traffic going in would go that way and then either go up Reservoir Road or Valley Street. And the traffic coming out would come around the east side of Burger King to the intersection that way. So you eliminated the crossover there, and you eliminated the confusion of coming down to the stop sign from Roses and coming on the red light. I thought, hey, that's a pretty good plan. Didn't get built that way. And I don't know what happened. But anyway, some of these things have been thought about a lot in the past. I guess it all boils down to recommendations, and this comes to some opinions. But one recommendation is to adopt a minimum housing code, and that was done with the town some years ago. There's an ordinance. Did that come into play anywhere?
We haven't found it.
I remember very well. Marvin was mayor, and Clyde Stiles and Harold Bennett was on the board. So that was done, and that was then done in about 96, 97, somewhere through there.
We will definitely go back and try to find minutes or some kind of documentation of it.
I've got a copy of it somewhere in the archives, but I feel sure it's there. But that's what it was a minimum housing code. I remember asking Marvin as mayor, I said, who's going to enforce this? To which I didn't get an answer. I mean, I don't know. And I don't know, maybe that was a requirement of somebody's good idea about something, but there is one somewhere, I think you can find it, and that's the time frame on it. Permitting double wide mobile homes with conditions. I think that's a good thing. There have been several times now where people have needed that. And it wasn't, it was people that, you know, pretty much had been here all their life, whatever, fell on hard times, couldn't afford to build a stick-built house, but they could go that route, get financing, and fix that up. So I think there's times when that's probably a good thing. A standard annual increase, 3% for water and sewer. Like I said, y'all gonna be superheroes, you can get by with it. Water and sewer is expensive stuff.
It is.
The one thing there, number 15, reduce off-street parking minimum requirements. I'd say, please don't do that. There's a lot of towns all across the country that you absolutely can't get around on because one side of the street is parked full all the time. And looking at the tables that compare us to Spruce Pine, Mars Hill, and I forget who else. Ours is not that much greater than theirs, but I think it's enough. 2 spaces of off-street parking for a single-family residence, I think that's just a must. I wouldn't be in favor of reducing off-street parking requirements. And that causes trouble. Adopting steep slope regulations and overhauling the subdivision ordinance. It's only a matter of time till steep slope causes a lot of trouble in Yancey County. And that may bring everybody to realize that Yancey County doesn't have a subdivision ordinance. And I think that's not good. There's a lot of, I wouldn't even call them subdivisions. They just, somebody came here and they bought a tract of land and they hired somebody to divide that thing up into lots. And I know one in particular, they put the road on the map and plat, recorded it, and then built the road, but the road's not where they are on the map. And you don't have turns in them that you can't get a fire truck around, let alone a concrete truck or a gravel truck. I mean, it's a lot of trouble. But you do need a subdivision ordinance, and you need to use it. And I think the county does too. But that's about my comment on that. But there's a lot of work. I appreciate the work that's been done. Just appreciate all the work that's going on here. And Corey, it's good to meet you. I served as treasurer for several years. The High Country Council does. I think we haven't had to drive to Boone and back 2 or 3 times a month, 7 years now. That'd be my comment for the public hearing, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Danny, very much for that. Okay, so is there anyone else who wished to speak? Although no one else signed up, so I guess we need a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second, are you okay with that, Russell? Okay, so it's unanimous that we're going to close the public hearing. And we would like to have a consideration of a resolution to adopt this comprehensive land use plan. So is there a motion for us to adopt it?
I make that motion also.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And are you in agreement, Bunny? Russell? Yes, so it's unanimous. Thank you. It's unanimous that we have, with much gratitude to Corey and the planning board. Thank you. It has passed unanimously, and we appreciate, again, all the time and effort and guidance that you have given us.
Thank you all.
We'll always associate this with the COVID-19. So
I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is what it is.
yeah, it is what it is. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting. We enjoy having you, but I know you live in Elizabethton, Tennessee, so if you wish to depart, we'll understand.
I believe I will, but thank y'all for having me. Appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you for coming very much and for your wonderful help and guidance. Okay, we will now move on to the presentation of our audit by CPA Sharon Gillespie. It's nice to have you back with us once a year.
Fascinating. All I could think of was that joke, hold my beer. Because you're about to be fascinated with this audit for sure.
Okay.
All right. So thank you for having me again this year. And of course, we enjoy working with you. It was a strange year. We didn't get to do as much on-site field work because of COVID as we usually do. So we had a whole lot of emails and phone conversations and that kind of thing. But we made it through, and hopefully things will become a little bit more normal in the near future. But if you have your audit reports, if you would turn to page 5. And I'll just get right into this and hit a few highlights. And then if anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt me during the course of going through the information. But page 5 is your audit opinion. And so here in the middle of the page, we see, in our opinion, based on our audit, and the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects, the financial position of the town of Burnsville, to paraphrase. So had you not passed the audit, you would see some different language here. So this is definitely a pass, a clean audit opinion. And all of this language that we use here, it sounds very monotonous and repetitive and sometimes not grammatically correct, but we are required to use these exact words without any deviation or we get written up. So this is not something that we make up to say that you passed. This is required language. But if you'll recall from past presentations, the way this document is organized, we start with management discussion and analysis, which is kind of a brief summary of everything you're going to find in the audit. And that starts on page 8 of your audit. So what we have here is 5 bullets that tell you the financial position in summary. And then as you go through the audit, you see very broad financial statements. And then in the back, it becomes more specific. So for example, if you look in the front of this document, you might wonder what supplies were for the water fund. And you can't really tell that in the front of this document. So you go all the way to the back and you have more detailed expenses. So that's the way we'll always be organized. But here on page 8, we see the assets, the first bullet, the assets exceeded the liabilities at the close of the fiscal year by 11 million. The net position increased by 396,000. The governmental funds reported 3 million, an increase of 1.7 million. And the fourth bullet, the unreserved fund balance was 1.1 million, or 54% of general fund expenditures. So all that is probably very meaningless to everyone here, because it's convoluted and it actually looks like you're saying 2 different things on these bullets. So what's happening with your audit is there are 2 kinds of financial statements in the audit. The first 2 exhibits are treating the town of Burnsville as if you were a regular business. And as a regular business, the first 2 exhibits have all your buildings and equipment. They have your liability for future health insurance, future retirement commitments. So they have the big picture of everything, just like you were General Motors or a huge company. The next 2 exhibits, exhibit 3 and 4, just look at what is a government accounting focus, which is a current flow. And that looks at just the money in and the money out, which is what you budget on and what you make a lot of decisions on. So these bullets are actually saying what you would look like if you were a for-profit company. And then the third bullet starts to say what you would look like as a government. Since the board is normally more involved in what you want to look for as a unit of government, we'll go over to page 20 and take a quick look at this. This is your balance sheet for the town, and you'll notice it does not show your land and buildings and those things. What it shows is anything that you have in cash or that you can quickly turn to cash, anything you owe out within the next 90 days, and then what's left over is your fund balance. So your fund balance becomes very important because that's the money that you have that you use for budgeting and for future projects. This year we have a little different presentation. You'll see a different column here for the fire department building. Because that was a project of such size and length of time, it requires its own presentation. So you have your general fund and then the major projects fund, which is the fire department, coming over to the total governmental funds. You'll notice on here we do not mention anything about the water and sewer fund. By nature, the water and sewer fund is run like a business all the time. It's never just a governmental fund. So we always present it with the purpose to break even or make money. So that exhibit is on back in the financials. But if the balance sheet is showing everything you've accumulated over time that can currently be spent, the next page, page 21, is your statement of revenues, expenditures, changes in fund balance. It's if you were a for-profit entity, this would be your income statement. So this looks at 1 year of inflows, 1 year of outflows. So you can see the inflows here were 2.1 million. The outflows 2.0 million for a revenue over expenditure of 106,000. I'm looking at the far column here. So going on down the line, you see the net change in fund balance, looking at the far column, 1.7 million. So if you were just glancing at this, you would say, oh, wow, we did great. We made $1.7 million, but that's not exactly how to interpret this. The fund balance, because you borrowed $1.6 million for the fire department, that flows into your fund balance. So out of your 1.7 million, 1.6 million was that loan. And then there was another oddity, if you will, for last year with the GDS service refund. So you had a large refund from GDS, which helped to the tune of $100,000. So out of this 1.7 million, you can pretty much allocate all of it to those two factors, 1.6 million for your loan and 100,000 for the GDS refund. So you had almost a break-even year if it wasn't for those two specific things. If you'll flip on over to page 24, that covers your general fund, and this is your proprietary fund, this is the water and sewer fund. And you'll see here you have non-current assets, you have non-current liabilities. So you have a lot more numbers on this balance sheet than you saw before. And there again, that's because it is presented as if it was a business. So you can see over the years that you have spent $10 million after depreciation on the different water projects. And the total liabilities here are saying they are $2.9 million. That is not to say that you need to go out and spend $2.9 million to satisfy debt. Those liabilities include two very fluctuating numbers. One is your post-employment health care benefits. Every year you have a study done by an actuarial firm, and they come back with a value that you should expect to have, or to at some point have to pay health benefits for the future. The same thing is true with the pension or retirement fund. So those two numbers, the 1.8 million and the 245,000, while those are items to consider, they are not true debt. So it's one of those numbers that we just have to put in there just due to accounting standards. But it is something to think about, because those are very real benefits that you've promised to people that at some point will need to be paid out over time. But if you look at page 25, there again, this is your income statement for the water fund. And if you look at change in net position here on the bottom line, it would look at a glance as though the water fund made $283,000. However, we do count all those grants that you get for the various water line projects, the pump project, everything goes into one page here. So you can see the true water operations are at the top of this page, brought in 2.3 million, spent 2.5 million with a deficit of 186,000. Now I will say the water fund is not, I'm sorry I have to disclaim everything, but accounting standards for government units are very confusing. So to me, I want to rattle through and see what the true bottom line is. The water fund did not lose $186,000. Part of that loss is because your health benefits estimate went up by $150,000. So out of your 186 here, 150 of it was just because that actuarial study was so far off between 2019 and 2020 that we had to do an adjustment to get it to balance out, and it caused $150,000 more in paper expenses on the financial statements. So, and I apologize if that doesn't make sense or is too much information, but I don't want anyone to think that the water fund is going in the hole to that degree, because it was really created for the most part by that OPEB study. So the numbers on those actuarial studies, they're absolutely, they vary so much from year to year. It's really a shame that they've made us start putting those in your financial statements, because it really just raises concern, and the way it jumps around, you never know what it's going to be. Next year, you might have a huge profit in the water fund, and that will be because they told us the healthcare costs may go down, and we may have to adjust it down, so it may look like there's a profit just because of that. So, and I apologize for all these, I don't write them, I wish I did. But apologize for having to weed through some of this stuff to get you to see the true numbers. But there's only a couple more pages I wanted to look at. If you'll go back to page 62. Most of the time when I'm auditing a county, they might have one or two capital projects going on. And my hat is off to Leslie. Last year, she was accounting for 5 capital projects, and that is just a tremendous amount of work. So just wanted to point out on page 62, we already know the fire department had its own capital project, so there was one. And then exhibit D1 through D4 are all your other capital projects. The Michaelville water line extension, the Meadow Road Indian Trail sewer line extension, the OMC pump station, and the Peterson Trailer Park line. So all those different pots of money she was having to account for, transfer money back and forth, keep everything going on all of those, plus the fire department project. So that was a huge year in accounting as far as responsibilities. The last page I wanted to briefly touch on is page 68. This is an important page to you because it is your tax collection rate. Your budget is based on, in large part, how much money you can collect and how well you're doing with your tax collections. So it was nice to see that this year your collection rate went up to overall 98.47, and that's up from 97.81 the prior year. So that's not quite a full percentage point, but it's a very good increase. And particularly with those crazy 3 months with COVID from March to June to even have, a higher collection rate was really good. But overall, we had no findings. There were a couple of just little accounting issues that I had mentioned to Leslie and had mentioned in the management letter. But there were no audit findings that needed to be reported to local government commission. So that's certainly a plus. And we didn't have any difficulties obtaining any information. Everything went very smooth. So does anyone have any questions for me?
Well, I know in your management letter, we always come back to the 2 areas of control deficiency and segregation of duties. But that generally goes with any small organization like which ours is. But overall, that aside, what do you kind of see as a major strength and a major weakness?
Well, I think your major weakness would have to be the size of your accounting department, because you are putting a whole lot of responsibility in one place.
That's true.
So, and I'm not saying that you should hire another person. I mean, a lot of times it's not economically feasible to even consider something like that. But it does lead you as board members and as management to just make sure you're getting the financial reports, you're asking questions, you're keeping on top of everything that way. But that's really a weakness in all units of government, but particularly, as I said last year, that was a lot of volume for one person to be handling with the capital projects.
Well, Leslie's still alive.
Yeah,
So
she's still got good color and everything. So
yes, so that's a good sign that we made it. So is there one thing that stands out that we're really doing well with? Is that our collection of taxes?
Your tax collection rate going up. You normally see just like, maybe 0.1%, or, normally you're staying pretty close on that. And for it to go up, I think it was around 0.75%.
Mm-hmm.
So that, especially in this economy, that was really good. And 2, your fund balance is strong. I know right now it has that loan money in it, but it's continuing to stay strong. So that's an important factor too.
Good. Well, thank you, Sharon.
Okay.
Does anyone else have a question for her? Russell, do you?
No, ma'am.
No. I've worked with Sharon a long time. She was our auditor with the regional library system, and she seems to make the difficult seem somewhat easier and more understandable. So we just want to thank you for your presentation this evening. If no one has any further questions or comments, I would like a motion to approve the audit as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, Russell, you seconded. Are we all in agreement?
Yes.
Yes, with appreciation to you and your staff.
Thank you very much.
Please.
And if anyone runs into a question, please call the office. We're there a lot right now, so, so you can probably get somebody.
Okay, please remember me to Nancy.
I'll do that.
Okay, and thank you again, Sharon. Okay, we'll move on to, we're happy to have with us this evening, Mr. Ventris, is that right, Joseph? Okay, so with the American Red Cross, and so the microphone is yours, sir.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilman. So yes, my name is Joe Ventris, and I am a Red Cross volunteer who lives here in Yancey County, right off Jacks Creek. And so myself and my wife, Karen, who's in class tonight, as she will be here with me, are looking forward to working with the town of Burnsville and Yancey County in getting to be that face of the American Red Cross for this county. We are rather new. We moved here a little over a year ago, and I'm retired after 36 years with the Air Force. And we wanted to do something for the community. So we decided that the American Red Cross, my wife has been volunteering for them for 20 years, but we wanted to do something different here. And so we are considered community volunteer leads, which means my wife and I are the face of the Red Cross for the community. And wherever there may be touch points, the community needs, make sure the community is taking advantage of everything the Red Cross can do for us. We are the advocate. And so we will come to meetings every month. We will listen, be the fly on the wall, and to see where the Red Cross can support the community even more. My wife and I are disaster action team members. And so whenever we have a fire in the county, my wife and I talk to the clients, and we help them with their immediate needs, financial, medical, spiritual, mental health. And we help them, you know, since there have been 3 so far since we've taken over. So this is something that a lot of the times when tragedy happens, the community takes care of their people, which is great, but we don't want to not bring the Red Cross in, because they can bring in, you know, the financial aspect and all those helping areas for our community. So we are actively involved in all of that. And this month is March is American Red Cross Month, where the Red Cross wants people like me, the community volunteer leads, to come and talking to the council members, and there's a proclamation, and I know you guys should have it. And Madam Mayor, I don't know if you want me to read it or up to you.
Well, I mean, we've all had a chance to read it, but what's the pleasure of the board?
They might want to read it. You guys want to hear it? The proclamation?
Well, of course they have to say yes. So
It's not that long. It'll
So
take
why
about-
don't you read it for us?
I sure will. So the proclamation is American Red Cross Month 2021. Whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to honor the kindness of our neighbors who aid families in need every day in Yancey County, across the United States, and around the world. Their dedication touches millions of lives each year as they carry out the organization's 140-year mission of preventing and alleviating suffering. Whereas during the trying times of the coronavirus pandemic, people have stepped up to help others in need. whether it was responding to this year's record-breaking disasters across the country or rolling up their sleeves to give blood when our country faced a severe blood shortage. Whereas here in Western North Carolina, local families relied on volunteers for comfort and hope. Last year, 358 local American Cross volunteers responded to 198 home fires and local disasters, educated over 1,100 people in community preparedness, installed 600 smoke alarms, provided 950 services to military members and their families, and helped collect over 24,000 units of life-saving blood products. Now therefore be it resolved, this life-saving work is vital to strengthening our community's resilience. Nearly 200 years since the birth of American Red Cross founder Clara Barton, we dedicate this month of March to all those who continue to advance her noble legacy, and we ask others to join in their commitment to care for people in need. And so it is definitely, the Red Cross is all people donating, and 90% of the people that work for the Red Cross are volunteers. And I'm one of those. And so we would love other people to come and join us to be volunteers and to help out in our community. So you'll see my face around and my wife's face. We want to be here. We want to help wherever we can. And so please come talk to us. If there's a need, we'd be happy to try to help.
Well, first of all, welcome to Burnsville. And I know that if our fire chief were here this evening, he cannot join us. He would certainly speak to how you help with fires and families and trying to get them the help that they need following a very traumatic situation. So we are grateful to the American Red Cross. But I will need a motion to approve this proclamation.
I move that we approve it.
No second.
Are you okay with it, Russell? So, yes, so we have adopted your proclamation with gratitude.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and we welcome you back anytime.
Thank you.
Let's see. Now, the next item we need to address is the consideration of the resolution supporting National Fair Housing Month. Now this, as you know, by now, we are very dependent on CDBGI for infrastructure grants, and this is a requirement by them in order to receive those dollars. So you've had a chance, I'm sure, to look over the resolution supporting National Fair Housing Month. It's in our packet. It can be read out loud if you choose, or if you've read it, we can approve it as presented.
I move that we approve it as presented.
Okay.
No second that.
Are you okay, Denise, Russell? Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
the resolution, thank you. So Heather, there you have that. Is that what you needed?
That is what we've been told we need. Yes.
Good. Well, we appreciate that. And having said Heather's name, we'll just move right on to her administrative updates for us, Heather.
Okay, first, we always start out with the COVID update. I'm hoping that very soon we won't have that update anymore. But our numbers are looking much better than they did the last time we all met. Yancey County is now on the state's website in the yellow of their county alert system, which indicates we still have some significant community spread, but it's much, much better than the critical spread that we were in just a short time ago. And vaccinations continue to roll out, and we expect our numbers to drop even more. Speaking of numbers, the local health department has stopped its daily statistics reporting on positive tests or recoveries or deaths, so they can focus on getting vaccinations out. And we're now into phase 3, which includes teachers and childcare workers and a lot of other essential workers, more of our local government workers, court personnel, and including local elected officials. So those of you who are not already eligible in another group will now be eligible now. the governor has lifted his stay-at-home order, and the Secretary of Health and Human Services has rescinded her secretarial directive for the stay-at-home order. So everything seems to be really trending in a positive way there, and we're all happy about that, ready to get back to some sort of normalcy. The next item I have is our special order of consent, which we are in the process of working on that application with the State Department of Environmental Quality, DEQ. Dylan and I have had multiple contacts with them about this, and meetings with them about this. And as you recall, either from our work session or our meeting the last time, I can't remember, we discussed the need for an independent expert to certify the need for this situation, basically the need for this agreement and the needs that we have with our wastewater treatment plant and collection system. So we have contacted Randy Hintz with Withers Ravenel, who submitted a proposal, which all of you have. And after, I know Dylan's had several conversations with Randy. If you've got questions for him, I've had some conversations with him as well. And he hopes to start, I think, Monday morning by having an expert come out and take a look at the facility at the wastewater treatment plant. Another engineer that's from their Cary office will be available. But what we need to move forward is approval of the agreement and authorization for me to sign it.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve that as presented in our packet.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, it's unanimous, Heather.
Thank you. And then we're back to our residential water leak policy discussion questions. We've been round and round with this for a while. And so, at this point, we presented you all with sort of what the staff came up with in terms of policy. And just want to, whatever is the pleasure of the board. Okay.
Why would we not charge a person who filled their swimming pool? Why would we not charge them their sewer charge? Because, I don't have a pool. I don't above ground or in the ground. But don't people who have swimming pools at some point empty that pool, and doesn't that water have to go into our sewer system and be treated? So doesn't that,
It doesn't go into our sewer system ever.
where does it go? Huh?
In the ground.
Well, if it goes on the ground, doesn't it seek its level and run into our storm drains or something?
Yeah, we're not treating
No.
It doesn't go
It
into into a storm drain and go into our sewer?
Those are two separate things. So you have,
What?
that's two separate things. So you have stormwater drains, which is just your regular rainfall running
And
on hose.
isn't that one of those I&I things that eventually goes into our sewer?
It's not supposed to.
It's not supposed to.
But I thought that was our problem.
Well, yeah, it doesn't help, but like if you were to be like, there's no way of detecting how much of their pool water would end up in the sewer system.
Well,
Because you have sanitary sewer and you have stormwater. And so basically you have a line, your sewer line that runs from town out to the Pine Swamp, like that. And then you have 90% of stormwater that runs like this.
I guess I'm hard nosed, but I figure we need money. And I just figure water's water. If I drink water at my house, this is my thinking.
Okay.
I drink a clean glass of water at my house, but I don't drink the whole glass of water.
Sure.
So I pour what I don't drink down the drain. Isn't that gonna go into the sewer?
You're getting charged for
But
that.
it's not dirty water.
So like,
So that's still gonna show up on my sewer bill.
yeah. So like what you're getting charged, I guess, from what this is trying to explain this leak policy, is basically if someone has a water line break, and say it's 10,000 gallons,
Mhm,
The town is saying, okay, we know that your normal use is this,
mhm.
and this is what you're now using because you had a break. We know that water did not go into the sewer, so we're gonna relieve that amount of money for that, but you're still being charged for the water. Is that accurate? Just wanna make sure.
You would relieve the sewer charge
sewer charge,
because
yes.
we know because of the break, the water didn't come through your plumbing system.
Yeah. And
But
then
And
when
go
they
into
fill
the-
their pool, if it's an in-ground pool, do people never drain an in-ground pool?
No.
No.
Well, I guess, so, Buddy, real quick, so like, when you're filling a pool, like, you're paying, or if you choose to fill a pool, most people around here so far that I've, encountered, they actually pay someone to come and fill up a hydrant, so they're only paying for water. They're not paying for sewer. So they'll come to like a hydrant that we have a meter on, they'll fill up a truck, and then they'll have that hauled to their house and filled up at that point. Now, if they fill
They
their.
swim in that water forever and ever.
It's
Oh,
treated.
really?
It's
Oh,
treated.
no.
It's treated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's treated with
You have-
chlorine
you
and
have
then
to
it's
treat
just.
it.
And so forever and ever, you always swim in that water. I know you.
Yeah, chlorine, it's cleaned, it's, put cover in the winter with a tarp, and that's, you don't ever have to drain it.
Okay, so it never goes into our sewer?
No.
Okay, that's what y'all say. I guess I have to go on. And these people with these plastic above ground pools, they just let it go in the yard and it waters their grass, and never goes into our sewer system.
Unless there's a breakout,
Hmm?
unless there's like a hole in our line. Like, it's not tapped into into the system, there's no way of getting that pool water into our sewer pipe. Legally,
Unless there's a break in the line.
unless the
Okay.
line's broken or anything.
And it
Okay, I just
seeps,
want to
it
know.
seeps in.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Bunny, when you drain a pool, you don't just let it all go, it seeps out slowly. So it just kind of,
But I figured it would just go in these storm drains, and that never goes though into our storm drain. Water does not go into our sewer.
Correct, so if there's any stormwater connections to the sanitary sewer system, that's an illegal connection, and you can be fined by.
Okay, so I just didn't understand. All right, thank you. My fault.
No,
I
No,
thought that was one of our problems, that some of that water was going into our system.
Yeah, that's just I&I, so that's just like our pipes fail.
And that's what we're trying to discover
Right,
and get rid of.
correct.
I thought so. Okay, but that's not Linden. Okay, okay. Very good. That is my question.
okay, any other question on that? So we're going to, we need a motion to approve the residential water leak policy, is that correct, Heather?
That's the pleasure of the board, yes.
So, I mean, it's pretty clearly stated, I mean,
it's
what
kind,
it
it's
covers.
straightforward.
Pardon me?
It's straightforward.
I think it is too. I mean, to me, it's very clear what is and what isn't.
I even understood it.
So, well,
Wondered.
are there any further questions regarding that before I ask for a motion to approve it?
No.
Okay, is there a motion to approve it?
I think we approve.
And I'm gonna second it.
Denise? Okay, so thank you. It's a unanimous approval.
Okay, the next item on the list is a lease for Area C here at the town center. A realty company, Leinert Realty out of Hendersonville, has talked with us about leasing Area C. It's a 12-month, the highlights are it's a 12-month period. They want to begin in April the 1st, $1,200 a month. They won't be making any alterations that we're aware of to the building or the interior of the building or the exterior of the building. There will be, they might paint. I think they said they might paint, but other than that, that'd be a help to us. So, and it is just a 12-month lease, so there's no need for a 30-day notice in the paper. It doesn't have any automatic renewals or anything like that. It'll end at the end of the 12 months unless they approach us with a whole new negotiation. So if it is the pleasure of the board to allow us to enter into that lease, then I need a a motion to approve the lease and to authorize the mayor to execute it by the April 1st date. The realty company has reviewed it and they were satisfied.
Okay. So is there a motion for us to approve this?
I'll second.
Okay. Are we all in agreement? Okay, so Heather, you have what you need.
I did, and I will get up with you when it is time to sign. We're waiting on some insurance documentation
Okay.
and things like that from them. Okay, need to set a date for you guys to have a short meeting. Well, me and Chad hope it's short. To conduct your evaluations of the two of us separately, of course, but, it'll have to actually be a meeting. So sometime in the month of March, if you have a date on your calendar and a time that might work.
Now, Heather, not to digress, but after we do your evaluations, then you will follow through with doing the rest of
I would do department heads and then, but since Chad and I report directly to the board, we
Right.
will do ours. I will do department heads this month and then the departments will all be conducting their own this month of their employees.
Okay, is there one day that works best for everybody?
Are we gonna be doing it during the day or in the evening? Do we?
However you want to.
Whatever
Whatever's-
works best for the
Yes.
board.
Russell, do you need an evening?
Are you busy in the evenings, Russell?
Would be better if you could, but if you could.
Or did you say you would prefer it in the evening?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I wonder, I'm just gonna toss this out, how does, the 29th of March look? It's a
What day
Monday?
is that?
It's a Monday.
How does that look with you, Russell?
That's fine.
Mondays are good for me.
So what time works best in the evening are we thinking of? I mean, like 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock,
5 would be okay.
5 o'clock? Okay, are you in your store till 5?
Mondays are good for me.
Mondays are good, okay, that's what I thought. Judy, are you good at 5 o'clock on the 29th?
I am.
How about you, Bunny?
I'm okay.
So the 29th at 5 o'clock, we'll, I guess, meet here. So we'll consider that as, God, I wish the pen worked. Is that's okay with you, Heather
That works for me.
and Chad? Okay, so, yes. Yeah, I thought I had, yes, I thought I had one, but it does work. Goodness, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the 5th. March has 5 Mondays. Okay, so we have taken care of that. Heather will.
Okay, the next thing I have are the community promotions, grants that we do each year for some of the nonprofits. We sort of instituted that policy last year and, developed the grant application and the guidelines for that. And Chad will be sending those out. It's already out. And those will come back to you all for approval at budget time, but we just want to let you know that they had gone out, and were being currently advertised, for groups that might be interested. Square events, was I gonna talk about square events, or are you gonna?
I can kind of talk about
Let's let Chad.
previous conversations we had. We're starting to get packets for Council Square. And we had a conversation at an agenda meeting where we talked about maybe waiting to discuss sponsorships and approvals of those meetings until the May meeting. And we kind of reassess where we're at and see how we want to move forward with the packets we have about events on the square. Just want to kind of let you all know about that conversation.
Well, That sounds like a plan. I mean, I'm fine with that. Is the board okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so then, moving into the tax collector role, I have the tax report. We've got 95% collected this far. The last day to pay your taxes, before advertisement is Monday, the 8th. And then the following week, advertisement of the delinquent taxes will go into the newspaper. And that's pretty much all that we have. Collections are going well, and Jackie reports they're about where they typically are, so that's good news.
Well, that is good.
That's good news.
And thank you for your good report. Okay, Dylan, and we've been talking to you, but we're now ready for your good report, please.
Nice and short. The water treatment plant, the state revolving fund, also known as SRF. Basically what's going on is, with our sewer tap, sewer line moratorium currently, and with some things that we talked with the engineers, the scope of what we want done at the water plant has changed. So we asked McGill to reach out to, never say it, anyways, the state. And he sent an email asking, is this okay if we proceed with this project under this scope instead of the original scope? And currently we have not had a response back. So as soon as, I guess, Heather asked them their response, and their response hurry up. So we're just waiting to hear back from the state to see how to proceed. And if they say the only way to get the funding is if you do this, then we have a game plan of how to proceed through that project. So we're just kind of hanging out, waiting to see what the state says about our funding. That's all I have. Everything else is going good.
Well, that's a good report. That's the only kind we like. And positive results. Thank you very much, Dylan. Leslie, you want to bring us up to date on finances?
Well, I feel like we talked about it last time.
Yes, we have, but
So, I sent out the budget versus actual, along with the audit earlier, the overtime report, if anybody has any questions. I actually don't have anything, but this month, probably bringing a budget amendment next month.
We have the money, but we have to move some lines around.
Yeah.
oh, okay. Oh,
And then maybe we've been talking about the Carolina Management Trust.
so tell us about this, because I don't know that everybody knows about it.
Okay, in your packet, you should have received some information about the North Carolina Capital Management Trust government portfolio. We understand that the county and the local school board all participate in this program. It's basically a mutual fund. The fund, and it's a place to, for lack of a better word, park your money while you're not using it. And it's a short, very liquid investment vehicle, meaning that we could move general funds into it, savings into it today. And then if Leslie needed them, as long as she tells them by 12 o'clock tomorrow, it'll be a same day transaction. So we like the fact that it was, ease of getting to our funds if we needed to. It's not the same as putting them, in something like a CD or something like that, that would time up for a long period of time. Currently we have all of our savings at UCB. We're getting a very, very small return on that money annually. As I said, the county and the school system are part of this fund, and as well as over 700 other local North Carolina government units and agencies. EA is registered with the SEC and has been certified by the LGC, so it is approved through the state as a fund. You know, and looking at the prospectus they sent us over the past 10 years, the funds returned about 0.73% compared to the 0.1% we get now. Is that right? About 1% or 0.1%?
That's
Yeah,
quite a
point one.
difference.
Point one.
Yeah.
In the last 5 years, the return was 1.3 compared to our 0.1
Goodness.
at the bank. And so, you know, of course, with any kind of investment like this, there is a possibility to have a down year. But in the past 10 years, there's only been one where the fund hasn't grown. And it looks like a lot more, their assets continue to grow. So more people are joining, becoming a part of this. It's a safe place that most of the investments are in, government bonds and things like that, very low risk types of investments. You know, and Leslie and I talked to them during the COVID. Obviously, everything has kind of those things have gone down. So I think they told you it's not the best time to jump in, but they do expect, you know, a rise. And she's had several conversations with county finance, and they've been very, very pleased with the returns.
What did you say the percentages?
Over the past over the past 10 years, 0.73, and over the past 5, 1.3. There have been, I think, 2019 was a really banner year. There was over 2% growth that returned that year. And so there were, on a monthly basis, I think they were getting nice returns. So with that, you know, we had intended maybe to come tonight to ask for approval for Leslie to open an account. But in talking with Sharon and talking about these OPEB and the special separation funds that have to be set aside or should be set aside each year to meet our obligations in the future for our law enforcement officers and our employees, I did a little bit more digging into that. And currently, we've just been budgeting $25,000 a year for the OPEB, nothing for the special separation, which is a much higher figure. Of course, like Sharon said, these are sort of mythical figures at this time. It's based on this actuarial report, and nobody really knows. And those numbers are based on if every employee you had today retired tomorrow, you know, what you would have to pay out.
Yes.
Which we know that's not going to happen, but in 10 to 11 years, we'll have a quarter that will be eligible of our workforce that will be eligible for retirement. So all that being said,
Gracious.
The statutes allow you to set up irrevocable trust documents for those two particular funds. And what that would mean is if we set up a trust that when those funds were appropriated into each year in the budget, into those funds, no one would be able to touch them. As far as right now, the money we have in OPEB, if somebody wanted to, you know, if the board wanted to, they could take those funds and do something else with them. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. So, you know, it's a recommendation from the state treasurer's office to set up these trusts so that those funds are there no matter who's sitting on the board for as long as they need to be to protect the amounts. Yes. So in light of that, we wanted to have this discussion tonight, see if the board was interested in us possibly setting up these trusts, and then Leslie being able to set up an account with these this mutual fund with Carolina Management.
So do you need a motion on that, or you just need us to express?
Well, I just needed some direction, and then we can come back in April with actual resolutions and documents and that sort of thing.
Well, I think it's a good idea, and it should be explored and looked into.
I think it is.
So why don't you get back with us after you've
We'll put it on, we'll put it on the April thing. And if anybody wants, I sent you what they sent us, which was their, basically the spec sheet and that sort of thing. But I do have the prospectus if anybody's interested. We can have a copy of that made too. So,
Well, we'll look forward to your update. Next, Leslie, is that the end of your report? Well, thank you for your good report, and thank you also, Heather. Our fire chief is unable to attend tonight, and our police chief is, I don't think, back from Winston-Salem, taking care of business relating to the town. So we're going to skip on down to Corbin and let you tell us about the town center.
So we were out doing recruiting March and September were slower months, but with that, we have 17 events right now. Scheduled, hopefully by tomorrow I'll have another one booked.
Good.
As we move closer to April, the interest in Reagan seems to be on the rise. April, May are looking pretty positive, if we can stick with some of those events not to schedule. And
That's very good.
Quotas for crowds larger. I mean, gatherings.
I'm sorry?
The quota for gatherings is larger now, isn't it? I mean,
It has increased slightly, yes. Majority of our events are smaller sit-down events anyways, so that hasn't really offered a good impact yet. But as more inquiries for the building come in, we potentially have different types of events that are slightly larger events.
Heather, Bunny, there's the fire chiefs, you'll just pass it on down. So Corbin, but we're staying rather busy though, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. We're now to myself and to Denise. Let me ask Heather this, we are going to approve the minutes, but what do I do about Russell? He can't sign this.
Oh, he's gonna need, we'll have to take those to him. We can approve him at the next.
At the next,
Officially approve him at the next,
we approve him at the next meeting?
at the next meeting, you can.
Oh, well, everybody's approved except him on these. I mean, it's up to you and how you want to handle that, but other than that, is there a motion to approve the minutes as listed and read?
I make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Bunny, are you with that? Okay, Russell, you okay with the
I
minutes?
can run. Fine. After the need.
Okay. He said he could run by and sign.
Okay, thank you, Russell. So the minutes then are approved. I do want to tell you about, we're holding until May 1st. You may recall that last year we had engaged Brian Girl to do a special patriotic event on the town square in recognition of July the 4th. I can't remember what day it was coming, but it was scheduled for a Saturday evening, and we canceled it because of COVID, and we temporarily have him booked for July the 4th. It comes on a Sunday, and so we have him temporarily booked for Saturday, July the 3rd, and we have the fireworks by the county, and we will wait until May 1st when we're approving the other that I believe Chad has talked about. We will hope that by May 1st, when we meet in May, that we can give the go-ahead. We're just going to have to see how COVID is. But I just wanted to keep you posted that I don't intend to, as you know, I've worked on the musical events for about 6 weeks, beginning around July the 4th, going into August, for people to come and sit and listen to music. And I'm not going to do that this year. We hope that this July 4th can be a special time and people can be healthy and all of that, but that would be probably the only event that the town will sponsor if it works out on the square. It will be Saturday, July the 3rd, and fireworks followed by the county. So I just wanted to tell you that so you can get all excited about it. It'd be the first time we've been together as such. Anyway, so Denise, I'm going to move on to you now with your litter pickup project that we certainly appreciate your undertaking.
Oh, my pleasure. And Chad was kind enough to find the press release from David at COG. And so I thought maybe I might touch base with Heather and Jody, and maybe we could tailor it down and put it in the paper for anybody who's interested in participating in litter sweep and maybe adopting a highway sometime. So
Okay.
Can I get that to you, Jody? Is that okay? I'll email it to her.
Okay.
Actually, I got something this week about that.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, so we'll like a good update next month.
Good.
Thank you, Denise, for pursuing that.
Sure.
And I'll keep you updated about July the 3rd. That seems like a long time far away.
When is this litter pickup? Is there a date for it?
It's for 2 weeks. The end of April into May.
Oh, okay.
I'll,
It's not right, it's not in the offing right now. Not right now.
no, not right now.
You'll give us the update next time we meet.
Right.
Okay, good. And also under my report, I will meet with Heather about the evaluation that we'll be doing on her and Chad, and I'll get back with you. So we'll know what we're doing.
We have the forms, so we
Yes.
can send them out.
Well, anyway, you'll get
I
an
was gonna
update on
ask
that.
about forms.
Okay, let's, Jamie, we are waiting to hear from you.
Madam, thank you. I will just, all that, I do have a specific update to give you on a project. However, the information that I will share with you on the update has not yet been considered for public release. So
Okay.
if I might ask you to indulge me, I'll allow Christie, if she has an update to give you to the chamber, go ahead and do that. And then if you would consent to enter into a brief closed session, for economic development discussion, we could do that. I'll share the information,
Okay,
before you complete your meeting.
okay, that will work. Christy, we'll be happy to hear from you and glad you're with us this evening.
Thank you guys for having me. Things are moving along with the chamber pretty well. We have a lot of promotions going on right now for downtown businesses and for, actually it's reaching all the way. I even have some of the people participating in this scavenger hunt right now in Spruce Pine. So we've, I don't have borders. If you're a chamber member, you should participate. Besides that, I'm starting a new program. I hit the road over the last 2 days getting signatures for our chamber member businesses to sign up to participate in the Chamber Bucks program, which is a gift certificate program that will be good at any chamber participating merchant. So it's my efforts to keep dollars local. You buy the gift certificate in my office, it will be good at any of the merchants that sign up to participate. So far, I'm at 15 merchants, and I'm going to keep knocking on doors until we get as many businesses in Yancey County to participate in this program, because I see it as a great way to keep dollars here. Don't buy an Amazon gift card at Christmas. Give Yancey bucks. So besides that, we're right now starting planning and working towards, knock on wood, the craft fair. I'm accepting applications. I know that I have talked to Mitchell County Chamber of Commerce, and they are planning as well to have their Gem and Mineral Festival the same weekend, obviously, as the Arts and Crafts Fair. So they are moving forward as well. And, you know, planning on, even if we maybe have to do something different than we have in the past, maybe we spread out a lot. I don't know, but hopefully everything works out and we'll be able to do that this year. I've also got applications going that Chad will be putting on hold. until May for our other events through the year. But that's
I believe that North Carolina is going to do the state fair.
that's the plan right now. Yes,
So-
so they can have a state fair. I can have a crafts fair.
That's right.
Also, just a slight update, the metric, which is normally held in April, has been postponed till September. So right now, outside of my promotional events that are completely social distancing, we're just going to move forward with the crafts fair. So, but tell your friends and neighbors that they should buy chamber bucks, and that's my report.
Well,
Any
Thank-
questions?
good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this point in time, I will ask for a motion that the board go into closed session.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Let me give the statutory,
Yes, well, that comes after we've agreed, so you may now proceed.
we'll enter closed session pursuant to 140 NCGS 143-318.11A4.
Sounds like a
To
prison.
discuss economic development.
Okay, so there was a motion and a second, and we are in agreement to go into closed session. We want to thank our public for attending. We hope we will see you next month, if not before. So this meeting right now, we're closed. We will go into closed session.